Welcome to Lesson 9 of Image Bearers. Today we're going to look into the life of not one person, but a whole family of people who took a different route when it came to the television industry. While other shows are trying to push the barrier to see how much they can get away with, this family brought nothing but wholesome family values in their own kooky way. So if you haven't yet figured out who I'm talking about, it's the Robertson family, known for their show Duck Dynasty. But before we go any further into their lives, let's get to our game about families. I'm sure your family hasn't ever done anything embarrassing like in our game there. I wonder if the Robertson family will ever look back at some of the crazy things that they did on Duck Dynasty and cringe with embarrassment. And speaking of the Robertsons, this morning I want to share with you 3 qualities of the Robertson family that I believe reflect the image of our Creator. Number 1, family. Family relationships are crucial in the development of our lives. Each and every person is molded and shaped by their environment growing up, for better or worse. One of the most unique aspects of the Robertson family that you see on Duck Dynasty is the love that they have for each other. Now, that doesn't mean that they always agree with each other. Much of the show revolves around the family's reactions to Uncle Si's outrageous statements and crazy activities, or Willie's newest fame-seeking idea. But at the end of the day, they stick together and even run a multi-million-dollar family business, Duck Commander. And the best part of all this is that at the end of most of the shows, moms and dads, brothers and sisters, nephews and nieces and cousins all come together to share in a meal. The family unit is the building block of human society, and God designed it that way. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, God talks about how families are to be structured through a father and a mother raising children who will one day set out to start a family of their own and repeat the process for a whole new generation. The idea of family is so great that God uses it for all of eternity. Through God's Son Jesus' sacrifice on the cross, we are adopted into God's family. And God becomes our Father, and Jesus becomes our brother. And each of us become brother or sister to each and every believer who puts their faith in him. No matter how your earthly family looks, you can have an eternal family who will stand by you forever. Number 2, fun. One of the things I find most enjoyable about Duck Dynasty is that the Robertsons find so many ways to have fun together. They're not inside, glued to a screen. They're out enjoying God's creation or challenging each other in some crazy competition. Even when the show begins with the family working in the Duck Commander warehouse, they're never in there long before an idea for a crazy activity leads them out on a new adventure. Of course, the very reason that life is full of adventure and joy and laughter is that we have a God who embodies all of these. Nehemiah chapter 8 verse 10 reminds us that God is full of joy when it says, "The joy of the Lord is your strength." And Proverbs reminds us that when our hearts are full of joy and gladness, that it brings a smile to our faces and healing to our spirit. God is not some kind of killjoy or grouchy rule maker. He wants us to love and enjoy life through his provision and protection. We were not meant to stress and worry. We were meant to be free of these by trusting in God. If your life could use more joy, trust in the God who loves to bless and provide for his children. Number 3, humble. In spite of having a hit show for 11 seasons and a multi-million-dollar business, the Robertsons never forget from where it all came. At the end of every episode, they sit down at the dinner table and give thanks to God. This type of humility is mirrored by none other than Jesus, who, being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. Many times through the Gospel of John, Jesus reminds us that everything that he says and does comes from God. Jesus could use his own credentials and his own authority as the Son of God to do whatever he wanted. But instead, in humility, he subjects himself to the will of the Father. John chapter 14, verse 10 is an example of one of those occasions where Jesus says, "The words I say to you, I do not speak on my own authority. Rather, it is the Father living in me who is doing his work." But why would Jesus, the all-powerful Son of God, humble himself? It's because of the depth of love that he has for each one of us. Love, by nature, is selfless. It's a risk, because love can be exploited and used to take advantage of the giver. Love shows that Jesus was willing to take a risk on us. In humility, he opened himself up to be used. And so the question is, will you take advantage of Jesus' love and use it to elevate your own position? Or will you follow in his footsteps and in humility elevate others? Your challenge for this week is to humbly take your position as a brother or sister in God's eternal family. Bring joy into the lives of those around you and give thanks to the God who makes it all possible.